much for joining us today. My name is Yesenia. I'm one of the business consultants here with the Maryland Women's Business Center. And today I am joined by my colleague, Dahlia, who is our program manager for Prince George's County. Dahlia, would you like to say hi?
Hi, everyone. Like Yesenia said, my name is Dahlia Joseph. I'm the program manager at the Maryland Women's Business Center overseeing Prince George's County, and excited to be here with all of you, and thanks for joining.
Yes, thank you, Dahlia. And of course, we are joined by Jessica, our wonderful speaker for today. I will go ahead and do a quick introduction to MWBC, and then we'll go ahead and get started. Okay, now can everyone see my introduction slide?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Wonderful. So welcome, everyone. We are the Maryland Women's Business Center. We are a nonprofit, and our aim is to help our entrepreneurs start, sustain, and grow their businesses. We are headquartered in Rockville, Maryland, but we serve Montgomery County, Prince George's County, and Frederick County, as well as Howard County. We offer different services such as free business counseling for entrepreneurs and businesses in all stages, whether you're just getting started or you already have a business. And we also offer different trainings and events that we offer virtually and in person, and of course, access to business resources. So if you are interested in getting in contact with us or signing up for counseling, please feel free to scan the QR codes on your screen. And of course, we are here to help you. Now, with that being said, I will turn it over to Jessica. Please go ahead. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, everybody. As I said, I'm going to keep my eye, if I can, on the chat. Try to keep that up on the screen so I can see what you guys are saying and any questions you guys are asking. And we are going to get right into it. So we are discussing, of course, AI for your business. And let me just let you guys know where we're going to get started in. We're going to discuss me a little bit, what you're going to learn. We're going to get through AI, demystify it, talk about definitions, myths, discuss some AI tools, how you classify it. And then I've got not one, but two frameworks for you. The AI product review framework, that's how to review products as they come out to see if and how they fit in your business. And my 5P system, which is really how to help you adopt AI into your business. As I see people pop in, I'm going to keep sending out that study guide to you guys because we are going to breeze through a few of these slides in order to get to what we really want to talk about, which are the examples, and get to your Q&A. All right? So let's get started. Who am I, and what is JWM Concepts? So one thing about me is I love to travel. Back in the good old days of 2019, about two hairstyles ago, I was traveling the world, living in Europe. I went to France. I was living my best life. And then the pandemic happened, which brought me back to the States. And I ended up going to Jamaica and meeting a certain somebody, getting pregnant. It was, right? New hairstyle, new me. This is the housewife version of me. Became a mom, very protective of my baby behind there. I never show him anywhere to anybody on camera. We meet one-on-one. I got his little picture right here for you. And you'll notice the paintings. I started painting. I'm a very creative woman. I love to paint. I love to bake. I love all kinds of creative hobbies. That blue painting is right in front of me now. This is one of my real paintings. And if you notice little guys in the walker, he was starting to toddle. He needed some space to toddle. So I decided to move my artwork from the real world since it was getting really big. You can see that was hanging on the wall to my side there. It's 2 by 4 feet, 3 by 3 feet. Let me pack up my studio, and I started doing AI for myself just as a way of doing art. But let's talk about my professional journey. So I started out with consulting, doing small business consulting, project program management, entity formation, marketing. And then I went to Cal, went to Berkeley, and got a little fancy over there. Did what a lot of students did to pay their bills. And I wrote papers for other college students. And when I finished with college, I continued to do international education consulting. I kind of found a niche in there in actually helping the graduate students with their English. And just writing dissertations, defending the dissertations, writing theses. And I also got more into the entity formation with the Atlantic Exchange. That is helping an entity become a nonprofit. Excuse me. And next year, and then that's when I was in Spain, kind of going back to the hairstyles. When I was over in France and Europe, that's when I met Steffi's. and did a lot more international education consulting for them. I helped over 500 students get into their university of choice with my admission support with a 100% acceptance rate. And that's when I started, moving around through life, came back here to the States, had my baby, doing my painting, doing my art, and my AI art. I got pulled into AI through the AI Surfer. A couple people here might know me from them because I invited some of my old friends. And that got me into the AI space from a more professional standing. It's probably one of my oldest AI community groups I'm a member of, where we collaborate, we work together, we share all things AI. And that's when I first started consulting and actually shifted my model very organically into the AI space, from demonstrating the work that I was doing, starting with art, with automations, processes, and then being asked, hey, can you help me? Can you build a course for me? Can you create a training program? You seem to have a good eye at this, because I've been doing consulting and teaching at this point for quite a long time, almost 20 years. So let's get into what we're here to learn. I hope you guys feel confident in why I'm teaching you and why you think that I might know a little something about something. Let's get into your outcomes today. I want you guys to actually recognize AI. Its real features, right? I want you to understand what it can and cannot do. There's a lot of hype, and we're going to cut through that hype, right? We're going to learn our frameworks, the Product Review Framework, the 5 Ps. We're going to learn how to articulate and define your business needs as it relates to AI use and adoption. And again, I want you guys to feel empowered to explore and use AI yourself. So let's get into the fun stuff. I'm going to drop again a thank you. Thank you, Yesenia, has helped me drop that study guide for the new people. I encourage you guys to take a look at this now, because we are going to breeze through these terms. Okay? Because every single last one of them is defined in a study guide. But the reason why we got to start here is because people throw out these words. If you don't know what they mean, it'll run right past you. And as we move further on this presentation and get into the things like the examples of how to actually use these AI tools and adopt them for your business, we're talking about machine learning, deep learning, an LLM, an LM. You won't understand what we mean. So most of us are familiar with AI as a term, but if you look at that study guide, the biggest thing I want you to recognize is that AI is defined as programs doing what humans can do. So one example I like to use is, by that definition, denotatively, a calculator is AI. Because we started out calculating on an abacus, right? We started out using our hands and other tools. Now we have a program doing it for us, right? We're going to get a little more into that, and we can talk about the myths. But I want you to look again at try to throw a few visuals in for my visual learners, right? Machine learning, neural networks, and how it gets into robotics, right? A lot of times people think about AI and robots. That's what they really think, especially those movies like iRobot gives you that idea, right? So what's a prompt? Now, these are common terms. Right? Prompt. What words do you use to instruct the model? Prompt engineering is crafting prompts, which is something that someone like myself does, right? Why come to me? Because anyone can prompt, but can you prompt effectively? Garbage in, garbage out. Gold in, gold out. This is the key to using these generative models. I'm going to explain that word in a moment. Very effectively. Now, hallucinations, another term for lying, right? Making things up. And then, of course, training and fine tuning and tokens. Tokens are important to think about as well, because this comes down to cost. It explains why it sometimes says you're giving it too large of a context window, or why, when pricing these things, I often tell my clients, maybe the price of setting up your service is one thing and the cost to maintain it is another. I can't predict that because I don't know how much you're going to use the thing, right? And so that's something to think about in determining what kind of solution to use as we talk more in this conversation. A bit one-sided here, but as we go through this presentation, which type of AI to use is a problem. Because sometimes it makes more sense maybe to use one framework, but it'll use more tokens. So then if your budget is limited, you might want to use another framework, another system that might have a little more pros and cons associated with it, but it'll meet your budget. Okay? Now, these are the ones we probably know the most, or we use the most in our everyday lives. Generative AI, that's the type of AI that makes things. Knowledge base, what you build in it, right? And then, of course, GPTs. And these are my terms. I call it automations is a doer, agents think and do, right? And then a couple other bigger terms you might have heard, like MCP and APIs. I understand that everybody's really technical. I don't want this all to go over your head. That's why I've given you guys much more detailed definitions in your study guide. Okay. So I want to go through this just really quickly because those who do know a little bit about tech may know about APIs, but now this new term MCP has popped up and I got a little bit of a visual for you, right? What I like to describe it as the difference between, imagine if you had a hose feeding information from your factory, from your business to the other. That's why it says the waiter is the API. It's your customer, the client, when you say the open AI API, what does that mean? That means if you're building something AI based in your business or your product, you're going to hose in open AI's abilities into your product, right? MCP would be more like if you connected the factories together. So that's that little visual on the bottom I made there, right? Two factories being connected by puzzle pieces. And MCP, it creates its own little framework that actually connects these things to your business much more and creates more communication and collaboration between those entities. I got that visual there for you. These are complicated topics. We could do a whole other webinar just on that. I just want to explain that one only. Let's get into the common myths. And again, I want to encourage you guys to ask your questions. Am I moving a little swiftly? Because I want to make sure that I can answer all of the questions. And I want to make sure we get to the examples. But go ahead and ask your questions in the chat. And if I can answer them as we go, I will. All right? So these are probably the most common myths that in the AI space we often hear, right? We hear that AI is new. It's this new thing. It can do everything. It's going to take all everybody's job, destroy everyone's business, and you shouldn't use it. It's wrong. So let's break down the first one. AI isn't new. AI first started in 1947 with Alan Turing, and that is the very Turing of the Turing test. You guys are familiar with that. If you guys are sci-fi lovers, pardon me here, looking at my own little notes. But if you're sci-fi lovers and you're familiar with the Turing test, right, the question that you're able to ask an AI or a bot to figure out if it's human or not, which is becoming more relevant now than ever. It's just evolved in our use of technology. Again, when you define AI as teaching a program to do something that humans can do, then we've actually always have had it. One example I also like to use as well is the Queen. The Queen of England had an email address back in, I believe, to say 1956. Yet most people didn't start getting emails and using them probably until around the year 2000, right? 2003, 4. If you weren't doing it for business, if you were doing it for business, maybe in the 90s. So when you think about what's going on in the space of technology, the innovators tend to be about 10 miles ahead of everybody else. And so today in the AI space, you're often hearing about the innovators and what they're doing. And you feel like you're so far behind and it's so new and so fresh. But you don't realize that what you're using today has been worked on, developed, thought about, considered for literally 80 years to some extent. The first chatbot came out in 1966 in MIT, right? So that's 80 years. So this stuff is not new per se. It's just more available than it used to. So when you understand that, here's an example I have here, right? Of AI doing what humans do. An algorithm is a lot like an art curator. So someone who would curate art in a museum, that's what your algorithm does. You like bunnies, so it's gonna, in order to get your algorithm to show you bunnies, you're gonna like content that has animals. It'll start to show you content with animals. And so you start to respond to content with bunnies. And you'll have an entire page that feeds you content with bunnies. I'm glad to give you guys some good facts, right? Think about the Snapchat filters, your spell check, right? These are things that we've had for ages. What's different now is that AI can draw pictures and it can make videos of us. AI has become so democratized, so affordable that everyday people can use it. That's what's new, right? What's new is that it can create images, create text. It's able to do so much more with so much less. That is what's new, but it's not that new. And more importantly, it can only do what humans do, right? It only can correct our spelling because we created language and we created writing. It only draw pictures because we draw, right? So it only can do what we give it to do, and it iterates based upon our understanding of self. I get into a lot more of the deep philosophical nature of this. I actually just discussed it in my last podcast. I will have a link to that. That link to that's actually in the study guide as well, my YouTube channel where you can find that. But I want to beat this one over the head here a little bit. AI isn't taking your job. People and companies who use AI are just going to be ahead of those who don't. I have a quick little anecdote for you. I was speaking with an attorney here in DC area about maybe whether or not he wants to bring in some AI to his business, to his firm, to prepare it for sale. He's in that space. He's been there for maybe 5 years max before he's ready to go. And he wants to see if, how, where, and when AI could be used because his staff keeps asking about it. So he knew me. He wanted to talk to me. I came to his office here in DC. And I kid you not, that man still had a typewriter. He had a typewriter with 2 fingers and he was typing out points. Why? Because it made sense. It made sense for his business. And I sat with him, I spoke with him for a good couple hours as I watched him deal with clients and go throughout his day. And I told him, hey, to be honest with you, the system you have, I can help you here and there using AI in about these 3 ways. I don't think it's going to move the bottom line and the sale value of your company at all. But if it helps you, I think it'll help you. And that made sense to him. And then nowhere in there did it make sense for him to get rid of his typewriter because that's what worked for him. The type of law that he does, the kind of clients that he serves, the work, and who he is as a person. It just made sense for him to keep that typewriter. I say that to say that it's okay if you like to use pen and paper. I have mine too, right? It's okay if you need to use your manual processes. Don't feel like you have to AI out every single thing. It's about finding your problems and solving it and using it the right way that makes sense for you and your business, which we're going to get to as I breeze through these slides. So, is AI biased and unethical? It's not inherently. Humans build, control, and use AI based upon our understanding of the human brain, the human body. Right. And that's smart too. Mary too talked about she lets use remarkable. Right. So you get the feeling of pen and paper, but you get the notes. You got to use what makes sense for you. I know people who like to write, to take a picture and upload what works for you. But to the point about AI being biased and unethical, the thing is, humans can be unbiased and unethical. Humans can be biased, they can be unethical, they can be impartial, and they can be very ethical, right? It's up to you. Our understanding of AI is based upon the human's understanding of the brain, right? Like the lobes of the brain and how it works, our human understanding of a dog. But for me to say that AI would be unethical would be like to say a knife. Knives are evil and unethical, right? Knives are cruel and awful, awful things. Well, are they? Knives could be used in surgery to save lives. They could be used in cooking to feed people, or they can be used in war. It depends on who's wielding it. What kind of knife did you make? How are you using it? I'm a bit of a Jamaican here, so I can use a machete for everything. And I have seen machetes being used to cut down trees, farm, garden, cut down your enemy, shave your head. I have seen a man whip out an entire machete, sharpen it, and cut his beard with it because he didn't want to be bothered to go get the other knife. It's up to you how you use these things. AI is a tool. Now, are there some unbiased and ethical things being done, especially with a certain 4-letter AI by a certain company of a certain person who used to spend a lot of time in the White House? Yes. Is there a facility in Memphis that's poisoning that community that was built for the purposes of AI? Yes. Does that mean that AI is in of itself a bad thing? No. That has to do with the people who chose to build it that way, allowed it to be built, and who maintain it. It has nothing to do with the thing itself, and like a knife, right? It's up to you and how you use it. So I hope I hammered that point. I hope I hammered that point down in here. And we're going to get into basic tools, right? The most common AI tools, especially for those of us in business, right? You have workplace systems like Microsoft 365 and Copilot, Google Workspace's Gemini, and OpenAI's ChatGPT. Now, technically, OpenAI's ChatGPT is not a workplace system. That's really just Microsoft and Google. I threw that one in here because it's the most commonly used one, but we're going to discuss that in a moment. So I'm glad to see that those analogies are hitting with some of you guys here, right? It's about knives and how you use it. But let's talk about Microsoft 365, right? It is a legacy system. You probably are using it because you already have it, and you probably have been using it for 30 years, right? It fits perfectly in with Office. The con, the Copilot upgrade is insanely expensive, has very few features, very little innovation. It requires a lot of third-party plugins and apps to really be useful, which is more money spent. I am going to go on record and saying I do not recommend the Copilot upgrade to just about anybody at all. One person business, 100-person business, I would just say, please don't do that. there are, please, unless you already are using it and you can't live without it, and you already are in the sauce. I can't help. Next is my favorite, Google Workspace, and let me explain why, especially in comparison to Copilot. It is the best of both worlds between the three systems I just mentioned, between Microsoft 365 and OpenAI's ChatGPT, right? Between Copilot and ChatGPT, Gemini is the best of both worlds because it is a workplace system. So you get documents, slides, email, all that stuff like with Google Workspace, like you would with Microsoft 365. But you get high amount of innovation, a lot of features, multiple video generators, image generators, audio, great actual workplace usable tools, integration, constantly innovating, and it's the most affordable of the three options. The biggest con is that for your 365 user, it's an outside system, and it does have fewer third-party integrations compared to ChatGPT slash OpenAI, right? So if you want your AI to seamlessly integrate with those third-party systems, Gemini doesn't do that quite as well because it has its own Gemini Google Workspace system it's integrated with, and other programs work well with Google, so it doesn't really need to pull you in another way, right? But I do want to just hammer in this one little note here and talk about, for example, OpenAI, right? Which is the gateway, I call the gateway drug, right? I'm going to put this on this. I don't just read my slides here. But the biggest con to me of using OpenAI, I was just speaking about earlier, is it hallucinates, it lies, it makes up truth, it makes up things. And if you are in the what I call melts or SLEM, if you're in science, technology, engineering, mathematics, law, or finance, if you're in those fields that requires accuracy, you are not going to get it using OpenAI. Again, I will go on record saying this. You can tell them that. You're just not going to get it. It lies. It's good strategizer. Give me names for things. Give me ideas. Give me concepts and thoughts. Sure. But if you wanted to reference materials correctly, and if you want to generate materials based upon reality, you are on the wrong program. Let's also talk about privacy and data governance, which is a huge part of AI use, right? One thing you want to think about when it comes to privacy and AI and data use in government, of course, is the content you're giving it going to be used to train the full model, and is the data that you give it going to be given to everybody else? What I will go on record saying is that I love my life and I have no thoughts of any kind of ideation. And I have zero confidence that what you give to OpenAI under any account is not going to be used to train the model and be given to the world. Right. So Diane in there says, right, she's called things out a few times. It apologized and did it again. It's a gaslighter. If you want to personify your AI, right? I call Copilot Bob. You know, that middle-aged guy in the office who's been doing this for 30 years. He's like 65 and won't admit over the hill. He still thinks he has 10 years left in him. He charges too much, does too little, but you've already been using Bob for 30 years. So you're kind of built into using Bob, but you don't want to hurt his feelings by going to somebody else. That's what I call Copilot, right? Chat is like that 25-year-old guy from Silicon Valley. Exactly. 25-year-old guy from Silicon Valley who goes out and pitches his new startup with nothing but a pitch deck and a hope and dreams, and still manages to get to $5 million. While you've already built the product and you could barely get 50,000. That's Chat. Chat's Brandon, right? He's that guy. Whereas Gemini, she's your 35-year-old woman in business who knows what she's doing, great at her job. She runs the office, even though she just seems to hang out in the back with her little memes. But she actually runs all the things, and everyone takes her for granted. overlooks her. But when you actually need things to get done, you go to her, and she knows everybody, and everybody knows her, right? It's like you want to you want to work with somebody who isn't afraid to say I don't know, and that's going to be Gemini. Let's talk about pricing really briefly, okay? From a business standpoint. So from a business standpoint, as you guys know, 365 is about $13 per person. To get the Copilot upgrade, you got to pay $40 per person, which is $27 per person minimum per month you're paying out for the least amount of features, okay? OpenAI's ChatGPT. You can use the free account. Just know that the free plus and the pro accounts all are training the model. So if you're going to want to use the Teams account for your business, Teams account is a mandatory $25 per person, 2 people required. You have to pay for the year in advance, meaning you're paying $600 for the year, $300 per profile to use OpenAI's ChatGPT Teams account in order to do that for your business, right? For your governance standpoint. Where does Gemini fit in? Google Workspace is for the standard account, which gives you more advanced AI features, is $15 per person. You can pay monthly, you can pay annually. It's $15 per month per person. So it is objectively less money to even add Gemini to your business, even if you're already locked into using 365 and to just get a workspace account, right? Than to use OpenAI or to or to get the Copilot upgrade. So just from a dollars and cents standpoint, it makes more sense to just buy a couple of workspace accounts. And for you guys, I like Claude. I have no problems with Claude. The people who used to work for OpenAI, including one of the founders, went and built Claude. I'm just saying, as far as for using it for your business in a general sense, I think it's a good idea for your company to have one of these 3 systems that you rely on for your business AI, and you go out to other ones if and as you need it. So I'm not saying Claude is bad. I think Claude is actually probably the best writer in general. But I think that Gemini is a pretty good, what I like to call 85%, right? It's a good solid B to B plus, even an A minus, even a solid A. The way I would rank Gemini on all of its features, and that's why I say it's best in show. At its worst, it's an 85 out of 100. Its best, it's a 95 out of 100. So it's not the best at anything, but it's not bad at anything, which is why I think it's great. And then when you add in the price, and to me, it hits a trifecta, right? Because Claude, you still got to pay $20 a month for it. And I forget if even have, off the top of my head, if they even have like a business account. But you're spending $20 or more for that account, maybe $25 per month, whereas Google Workspace is $15. And if you've got one account, if you're solopreneur, micropreneur, you got to be careful with your money. Even if you have a 1,000-person company, you need to be careful with your money. There's never a point in business where you don't have to look at your vendors and how you're using them and be careful. So I want to move on. I'll make sure we got good time for Q&A here. But these are some other good tools. Notebook LM is in the Google system, so you can get it. Everybody who has a Gmail has Notebook LM. Just going to drop the study guide in there for everybody because you can get it again. But everybody who has a Gmail has the free Notebook LM version. If you have a paid Workspace account, then you can get the Plus version. Highly recommended. Gamma is just great for presentations. Gamma made that study guide, as you can see. Manus does a whole lot of things. It's an agentic system. Obviously, if you're creative, you're using Adobe, you already know. But Midjourney does have the best images in the market, even compared to Adobe. And it also just got into video. Its video is doing really well. Canva is great too, and I mentioned Claude. Claude is a great LLM. There's a lot of stuff that's made by the OpenAI team. And there are your little logos there, so you guys can take a look and remember the brand. So let's get into classifications, right? Now, I'm going to start with the proper classifications. And the thing to note about this, on the left side, you've got the narrow, general, and super. Narrow and general is what we actually have today. Super is like theoretical. Same thing when you try to categorize it based upon these functionalities. Yes, I'm glad to hear you, right? And limit, right? So these are things, I'm setting them out here, but these are my classifications. And the reason why I'm presenting my classifications and not just sticking to these is because for everyday working people like us who have things to do, this stuff doesn't really help us. I'm giving you these terms so you know what people are talking about. I don't want y'all to look stupid. I want y'all to understand what's going on. But these are the terms that I use. I'm talking about generative AI, how I classify it for business use. Generative AI that creates things, automations that does things, agents that think and do, integrations or systemic. And that's just how AI works across your whole system, how you can build out your entire system to be AI used around it, how that's helpful to you and your business, right? So as I said, generative AI creates things. Your GPTs, your chatbots, your image generators, your auto generators. The good news is that you can use it to save a lot of time. It can make great things. Cons is it's AI. It doesn't have context or subtext. I describe generative AI as, imagine if you were like a chef and you had a kitchen full of like aliens that were trained in all things human, but they're not humans. They just were trained. They went to college and they got like PhDs on human. And they'll make anything you want, but they don't get anything. They don't know. So if the client comes, if a customer comes to you hungry and says, I want to eat a hearty, rich Italian dish, it needs to be really rich, stick to my ribs, hot sauce, cheese, meat, tomatoes, all of that good stuff. I'm sure most of us are thinking about lasagna. That's what I think of, lasagna. Now, how did you just say make a lasagna to these aliens? They don't know what the hell you're talking about. So now you have to say, okay, make a baked pasta dish that's layered with tomatoes and sauce, and then you send that to them, and it sends you baked ziti. It's layered up. You're like, oh, that's kind of what I meant. Okay, send it back. It does the same thing with spaghetti. So now you have to be very specific. Okay, you're going to take the dish, you're going to put the sauce, you're going to use wide, flat noodles, you're going to then layer the sauce, the cheese, and then do it again, then do it again, do it at least 3 to 4 times, and then 8, dish. And there you go. Now you might be asking, well, why am I going to bother? Why would I just use human chefs? Good question. Because these little aliens can make a lasagna in 60 seconds. Humans. So that's why you're going to use it. Because if you imagine if you were that kind of chef, imagine if that was your business. Customers came up to you, told you what you wanted. You just wrote out some instructions, and in 60 seconds, you had the exact dish perfectly made to order. What kind of business could you make on that? Right? But you need to learn how to talk to your chefs. That's generative AI. It can save time, make great things when you know how to use it, and how to talk to it. That's how we talk about prompt engineering. Now, what's automations, right? We've all seen and used these things. Auto applies to emails, so automated text that, comment newsletter down below to get signed up to my newsletter. Then you comment newsletter, and then immediately you get a DM and a response. That's AI. That's an automation, right? So when you sign up for calls and you get all those little emails and texts, automations, right? We've had them for ages. We've got products that do it. Most of your CRMs do it. It's not really news. What's different now is that you can use them to do more things. Agents create things and performs tasks, both simple and complex. So it can read the document, summarize it, rewrite it, and send it to somebody. Pro, that does a lot of work, saves a lot of time, right? Easy to set up technically. The con is expensive, complicated, and makes mistakes. And I want to compare that to automations for a moment, because the biggest con of automations is that it takes a long time, right? Setting up automations can be tedious. Whenever you're doing like an email setup or a text messaging, funnel, you have to write every single word and letter, every single message. You have to write every single if, then, now what? If, then, now what? If, then, now what? That's tedious. And then people are going to get the exact same one. When you do agentic, they're going to get something custom every single time because it's going to be generated. The pro is it gets to do that for you. The con is you might not know what it's going to say, and you're responsible for what it says. Let's talk about the integrations, right? We're talking about putting something in your cloud system. That goes back to your Google Workspace, your Gemini, your Copilot. Those are systemic integrations. Or when people like me, we say, I'm going to install a bot in your cloud. What am I talking about? Wherever you keep your data, it could be on a physical server, it could be in a cloud. I might put something that will integrate into your whole system and do tasks for you, whether it's automations or more agentic systems or generative. I think that's what an integration systemic kind of AI is, okay? So We have OpenAI, we have Anthropic does this, Google does this, technically Copilot does as well. Okay? And then here's a visual for you, for those who need that. So you can see the just how all these things overlap, right? Because some of these concepts and ideas are actually little pieces and parts of the bigger cloud. So we talk about AI, the generative models are just a teeny tiny little piece of what AI is, right? Just want to get you an idea of like, this is much bigger than we think it is. So that's why when I was saying earlier, it's not new. The part that we're used to, the generative part, is new. But AI isn't new. It's a huge thing. So here are some use cases, and what I want you guys to notice here is these use cases actually have almost nothing to do with generative AI, right? This is analytics, research, automations, just doing systemic reviewing, right? Risk management. Now, customer services might be a little more generative, chatbots that talk to people, automatic phone callers, but that's automations as well, right? This is a lot of the use of AI that's been going around for decades that we have just taken for granted, maybe even not noticed, has always been around. These are the most common uses. We're just, again, now recently ourselves using it in a new way. So, and I'm seeing you guys, I'm not seeing questions. I mean, I'm guessing you guys are following along with me. I hope I haven't blasted you out. But this is the fun part I really want to get to, which is the frameworks. I've got 2 frameworks for you guys to use to help you all review AI systems, and how and when to use it for your business. So first is the AI product review framework. Is a 6-step system, right? I'm glad. This all up. I'm going to go right through it because you guys have this in your study guide, right? You're going to identify the need, and the value of this product review framework is in the name. It's really good to use to review products. There's constantly new things coming out all the time. You may be trying to figure out which CRM do I use, which image generator do I use, which program do I use to do this or to do that. Use this to help you figure it out. What do you need? What's the problem? What's the solution? And when I say classify your solution, what kind of solution do you need? Do you need a generative solution? Are you looking to create writing, create text? Do you need a solution that does things automatically for you? So if you're having problems with your leads, for example, lead management, lead flow, do you need a solution that will automatically respond to people or do you want a solution that creates the content for you so you can get more leads? You got to figure out your problem so you can figure out the value of your solutions and then move forward on seeing if it's feasible, does it make sense, develop the frameworks, right? We got some materials. We got at least one attorney in there with us. I'll have to study guide one more time for you guys. But making sure you got good frameworks available who can help you. That's what I do well, of course, and then test and iterate. Now, here's my system, the 5 Ps. And I always harp on this. What's this one? What if you don't know where to begin? That is a very good point. This is you get to right to my 5 Ps. What is your problem? So I would say to you, Diane, we talked about this, right? But and ask yourself, like, I don't know where to start. Great. That's what the 5 P system is here for you. What's your problem in your business? What is the problem? If you don't know, then ask yourself, well, where do I get stuck? And it happens to me all the time. I write, I create, sometimes I get a little stuck. And so I've created little GPTs to help me when I get stuck. I'm a great writer, but sometimes I'm not in the mood for that. So sometimes I have trouble with communication, with corporatees. I'm learning how to write my emails and sound the best way. So I created solutions for myself to build that, right? So what is your problem? 2, who are the people we're working with? And what I mean by that is, right, am I working with a team of 10 women who are all over the country in different time zones? One's in Canada. 3 of them just had a baby last week in the last year. One's pregnant. 4 are menopausal and they're going through hell right now. And one is like 22 years old and just ready to get started. Who is a visual learner? Who has ADHD? Who has autism? Who loves to read and write? Who can't stand computers and just likes to do phone calls and text messages? That helps us figure out the elements to the problem and how we get to the solution. Because I can make a solution to a problem, but if I don't know who I'm giving it to, that solution may not be helpful. And that's becomes an issue when it comes to picking your vendors and picking your products. So we all dealt with that, right? I need marketing, but this person doesn't talk to me the way I can listen, I can understand them. I might go to somebody else who might charge me more money even because I can work with them, right? So understanding who are you working with? What's your policies? Do you have any in place? Do you need some? I can get you some policies. Maybe you want to be careful, right? Who do you have a tech policy? Do you have an AI policy? Do you need one? Is your team just using ChatGPT themselves? No, 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 no. Need them to use your company's plan. Do you have a company team's plan? Does that make sense? Does it make sense to you for you to get a Gemini? Does it make sense for you just to stay on Copilot? I'm not going to recommend that, but it's up to you to decide. It must be, when does it make sense for your team to use their own software? Maybe for Adobe, it might make sense to let your marketing people have their own Adobe accounts that you just reimburse for them on their behalf, than for you to go buy Adobe account for the company. Or if you want to use the cloud, then you do need to buy your own plan and have them use it. What makes sense for you and your company, right? And that's how you build policies. I have to know the people in order to figure that out for you too. Process. Now, what's your existing method and what's your new method? And how does that make sense? And that it helps us figure out which products to use. Hope that all makes sense. So you got to start with what is the actual problem we're solving to get to your point, Diane. If I don't know where to start, I don't even know where to start. Well, pick a problem. Pick a problem. I could be very candid with myself. One problem I have is, again, knowing how to talk to people in emails and messaging in order to sound most professional, how to navigate the power imbalances with people, right? So I know me, right? I know that I like to talk, I like to learn. So I'm using my own Gemini assistant. My policy is figured out. I know what I can trust myself to do is go to my custom gem, my GPT, to help me answer questions. So what product did I choose? I chose Gemini, a custom gem. Why not Notebook LM? Because it doesn't do what I need it to do, right? Why not make my own chatbot? I didn't need to. I could just use it within the system, and also that way for people on my team to get access to it, so it was helpful for them as well, right? So what did I make to solve this communication problem for myself? I made a gem I called the Conversation Analyzer, and I created it to help me analyze conversations with people so that I can navigate the power balances the right way, right? You gotta know yourself. So let's get more into here, right? I'm gonna go a little more detail. I'm gonna move past a little bit to what I got 15 minutes left, and I want to make sure I can answer your questions and get to the examples, right? But these are the kinds of questions that you're asking yourself again on how to start. What are my bottlenecks? What's stopping me from making more money? How can I raise lifetime value? How can I increase revenue? What are my issues? What holds me back? If I'm making $1 million this year, what's stopping me from making two? Is it because I don't want to, or is it because of something else? What stops me from making more money? What stops me from having fewer problems? What helps me make my job easier? If I don't know, what makes my job hard? And then go figure that out, right? What kind of solution do I need, right? For me, the communication issue wasn't going to be solved by automating my emails. That wasn't the solution. I needed to respond to these emails personally. And some of them are not emails, some are text messages, right? Some are WhatsApp chats, some are Discord DMs. So I needed to have a solution that made sense. What makes sense for me to do, right? And then how much does this problem cost me, right? If it doesn't make dollars, does it make sense? If it doesn't save money, does it make sense? So AI isn't going to make you money in and of itself. AI does not make you more money than a cell phone makes you money. And think about that for those of us who are old enough in business to remember cell phone adoption in business, right? About 25 years ago, right? Adding cell phones did not save your company money. It was another bill. But you added cell phones because it made sense to your company to help you make more money to have a cell phone. Or you didn't, right? But that's how you figure that out. What is the problem cost or what is the solution cost? You can always just use a classic, how much time do I spend on this? How much money do I make per hour? How much time per hour is this costing me? Might it make sense to solve the problem, right? And one thing I do too, I tell people, for example, one little problem in one of my automations, any call that gets booked, my calendar thinks that you booked an AI call for me. So it sends you notifications, even though I might have been on your calendar. And it confuses some people. And I told them, I've looked into the solution to this problem, and it costs too much time for what my time is worth to solve it. And it doesn't cost any money, any problems to have it be there. So I know it's a problem, but it's like a zero cost problem with a more than zero solution, which is why I leave it the heck alone, right? I know I can solve it. It's just not worth the time. I have other things to do. So will the solution make like will the solution save me money or will it empower me to make more money? Right? What is my skill level? Do I need to outsource this? This people like me come in. I like to help people with that because I'm willing to admit when if something is above my skill level. The beauty of it is I got people on my team, multiple people I can call or who I currently work with. I got a CTO. I can send simple little projects to her. I have several companies that I can outsource and manage the project for you on your behalf. So don't be afraid to bring something that might seem a little bit above me, because I have people I can work with. Is that my skill level? But also for you to think about that as well, because some of these solutions that we need to give you will require you to be upskilled. And if you don't have it in you, then maybe we got to do something else or nothing at all, right? So that you got to hire people to manage situations. Or maybe you're going to automate someone else's job out, but you got to retain that person and train that person to manage the automations. These are things to think about. What are your frameworks? As I mentioned, what are your current policies? What are your rules? Do you have them? Are you running fast and loose, which you really definitely shouldn't do, or are you being focused, right? And the last one there. How do you share your data, right? Make sure you're making sure you're checking in. Does this make sense? Does this make money? Does this save money? Making sure you're looking back and checking in with your team. Making sure you're training and informing people that you're adopting AI. So let's get to the examples. I got like 12 minutes left. I'm gonna get through. I've been checking you guys. I like that. Fix your AI. Yeah, there's a lot of great, and not to love it to be all over Gemini, but Gemini just great. Just upgraded their own feature to be able to train itself on how you write without you having to train it. There's a lot of great features that are out there. Fixer's another good one. Oh, freaks, Friday. I know I'm saying it wrong, but I know what you're talking about. So here's an example company, marketing, right? They had a lot of leads, and it was taking too long. The bigger issue was they needed their lead managed, right? Didn't have efficiency. They did have a limited budget beyond my fee. They could only spend a maximum $10,000 per year on anything, right? So that doesn't give them any budget for cuts and bills, but does give them a decent budget to add some solutions to their company. So who do we have, right? We had a very small team here, just a founder, a graphic designer, videographer, social media person. They outsourced everything else, and they weren't trying to hire somebody to do the team. So what did we do? I created a new policy for them, right? Made sure that we had a new policy on how to bring in new AI. This is important because I like to build things for when I'm gone and you're no longer working with me. And that's that product review framework. How we're going to try things out, and that the importance of that last piece too is to get the team on board. So here's what we did for lead management. I gave them my CRM, which allowed them to automate a lot of little things that they weren't doing. They weren't automating enough. So we had integrations and integrations built into a proper different CRM because they were all over the place. Then I helped them with a couple programs for content creation, right? I brought in some plugins for their graphics person and their videographer for Adobe use, right? And then trained them on that. Third, of course, trainings. I gotta train them on everything. They were using Copilot as well because they already were using it, so we're not gonna do anything else. So what were their programs, right? These are their current programs that they were using, as you can see, and I moved them onto new softwares. So I added in Gamma Manus and ConvertWave, a couple plugins. I got them off of MailChimp. They don't really use Canva that much, but they kept it. It's very affordable. It's less than $200 a year, right? So this is what I was able to do for them, and one more of that. And then the cost, less than $3,000 between the software that they were using, well under their budget, right? And what I didn't do was try to get them to do things that they didn't need. As much as I love Google Workspace and I'm constantly talking about it, if you don't want it, you don't need it, doesn't make sense, don't stay where you at. I'm not gonna force anything on you, right? You don't need a chat. Not everybody needs a chat bot. And while yes, Midjourney is the best image generator on the market, they were happy with Adobe. I'm not gonna try and solve problems that don't exist. Right? And here they are 6 months later. They're on track to double to a 50% increase in their revenue. They're looking to hire somebody else. Last I spoke with them, they cut down some processing time on quite a bit of their work, and that's why they got new clients and more work with their existing clients. Right? Here's a hope that was clear for you guys. And I'm gonna move on. We got 8 minutes left, and I did want to at least have a moment for us to do a little bit of Q&A. But I don't see questions in there, so I'm guessing either you guys are listening and you're catching on, or you're a little shy. Throw your questions if you have them. So here's the second example of a state attorney that I worked with. He had a 35-year firm on referrals, and he just needed ways to bring in some leads. He wants to raise the drinking from the fire hose. I did tell you guys, I got a fire hose for you guys. I'm glad to help, Kenley. I just got to see you in here. So they're preparing for exit, and they want to raise value of the company to leave something behind for the junior attorneys. They have the money to invest in stuff. They just want to be careful about compliance, right? So what's the problem? They have no leads. A referral-based company, which is great, but you can't sell a referral company, right? They wanted something affordable and quick to give new clients in to build their leads, and they had all these old records that needed to be digitized and managed that they wanted to incorporate. And of course, their bigger issue is to increase their value for exit. Who's their people, right? One primary attorney, a couple juniors, and some associates, and they outsource the rest. Okay? Primary attorney, he's around 55. He wants to be out 10, 15 years max, right? Junior attorneys are around my age. Young folks in their early mid-30s. The admins were one in kind of each group, a young one in their 30s, one in their 50s. Outsourcing everything else. The point here being that these people are willing and able to learn and to adopt and to adapt, but they're a little camera shy. That comes up later on what we're going to do. So policy, they had a policy with nothing with AI. So I just helped them out a little bit for the policy on AI. Nothing too crazy, right? The important part for them was transparency. They send a memo to every single client, past and present, to inform them of AI use and the value it adds. You do that to prepare them for, hey, if there's something a little wonky, I want you to know why, right? You got to protect your reputation. That's admitting that you're doing something. Good question, Aisha. I'm gonna get to that one in just a moment. I got you. That's a very good question. So what did I do for them? I made a simple digital marketing plan. Now I'll admit with you, they're fighting me a little bit on the podcast piece. But we got them to it. They were very camera shy. They didn't want to go on camera. But I was like, you're gonna have to do it. There was actually another creator who is an estate attorney, and I was like, we're just gonna rip off every last bit of this guy's content because it works. The guy's viral. It works. It's the exact same niche. There's not enough people out there. We're going to save you guys the effort of figuring out what to do, honestly. Just copy that guy's content, and they did. Okay? They outsourced. I recommended just getting on an intern, but they just outsourced it to somebody else. And then they also needed a CRM. Didn't have or need one. So, of course, I gave them mine. Yes, it's an affiliate link. You don't have to use it if you don't want. I did add the bot for them so that because they needed it. It allowed them to do a quick estate workflow and manage their files, and it allowed them to move to project-based payment instead of hourly. That was a big, scary piece for them. A lot of attorneys don't like that. They're so used to hourly-based payments. But to push them on, I was like, it makes sense. Charge the same amount you would have charged for the average of what you do hourly, make it project-based, and it really helped them out. And obviously, I got to train them on all those things. Train them on a CRM, on the agents, and also on the media and the studio piece. I do have a little bit of media training. You can't tell, so I gave a little training on how to do that. What were the products? Just two. All they needed was a CRM and an open source AI agent and LLM. It's something we pulled off of GitHub and cloned onto their system and taught them how to use it. Didn't need a whole lot. The results, they were able to reduce hours. One more point. They were able to reduce hours between 60 and 80% on their billable hours, which increased the capacity of their team tremendously. Of course, the automated quick estate plan manage them, to be able to bring on new clients every single week, and it got booked out way in advance. And of course, you got tremendous amount of new leads in just a few months. This is like a 3-month check-in with them. Okay, so that's all up to fire hose. We got 5 minutes left. I'm going to get to Aisha's question, right? We discussed AI, how to use it, your tools, classify it, your product, your 2 frameworks and examples, your key takeaways. You can use it now, right? The importance that it's practical, it makes sense, and that you're applying it strategically. And my recommendation is to start small. I put in your study guide the recommendation for you guys to spend about 2 to 4 hours per week on your AI tools and have a budget of about $200 per month to start, right? As far as how to get started with your AI and what makes sense to you, right? And make sure you stay informed as much as you can. So your next step is going to be just pick one feature or pick one pain point, pick one problem that you have, and then research one. Keep it small. So pick either one tool that interests you, one pain point, or just pick one thing. Start there. Start simple and see if you can't. You'll find 1,000 solutions. To that question, so Aisha, what platform do I recommend for a small company that's using AI for training videos? That's a really great question. There's the easiest one's going to be HeyGen, HEGEN, HeyGen. It is not the cheapest. We'll admit that D-ID, DID is cheaper. The reason why I like HeyGen is because you can create an automated avatar for yourself. You can create an AI avatar and they'll clone your voice for you and all of that. You can create ones that have a green screen so you can apply it over your work. It's really great for just making training videos if you want to do an AI powered one. Thanks, Emily. I'm glad you were here. If you want to do, for example, like you making a training video where you're still on the screen, I mean, I make training videos using just a regular video capturer, OBS Studio on my device. There's also something like Loom, Loom is a good one. That's really great for doing that. It's not even like that fancy with the AI. And there's one more whose name is escaping me. That's what happens when you have like 500 programs in your brain. It might come to me. And Aisha, I recommend you got my contact information in my study guide. You drop that one last time in there. The last slide of the study guide has my contact information. It's not guide.com. It's a different company altogether. And I really like them because they're really good for making like SOPs. And that's why it's bothering me. I even met with the CEO. So this is just, I just do a lot of that. I do a lot of meeting with vendors on their products. And so I get to know them. And so HeyGen, I'll just say that, heygen.com, d-id.com. If I actually have affiliate links. I can just pull them up for you right now, but that'll be messy. But just shoot me an email, Aisha, right? It's not Scribe. It's going to mess with my head. Glad to be helpful. Last thing before everybody goes, I have a webinar I'm going to be doing for how to get your own custom AI boardroom. I'm really excited about it. This is a webinar I'm going to be doing at the end of the month on the 29th. But if you guys scan this link, you will get the prompt yourself and the instructions. You don't even have to come to the webinar if you don't want to. I will give you the prompt that I use to make my own AI boardroom. This is a great way to strategize for your business, how to get started, what to do. You can talk to it. It creates 5 personas that you can use and talk to as real people. Like the one I use has Steve Jobs, Alex Hormozi, Simon Sinek, other guy, Bene Brown, and someone else's name I'm forgetting. But I actually have 5 individuals who I have in my boardroom, and I get to ask them questions and plan solutions. Like I said, I have a webinar that's coming up for that. You can scan the webinar page here on the left, the registration page. And again, here's the prompts, so you can just get the prompt and instructions. That's for all of you guys who stuck around to the end. So you guys can actually get the prompt yourselves. You don't have to attend the webinar if you don't want to. That's totally fair, I understand. But you can't see my screen. That's interesting.
You're on results 6 months later slide, Jessica.
Yeah.
Oh,
well, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Did I move forward now?
No.
You guys see a gift?
I can see your mouse moving, but not the slide.
I'm sharing, and I'm just going to share again. I'm going to solve that problem right here and now. Can you guys see it now?
Yes.
Great. Custom AI boardroom. There we go. So custom AI boardroom. So there's the prompt for you guys. Here's the webinar that you guys can see. So you can get registered for the webinar itself. If you are while with me on LinkedIn, I'm promoting it on LinkedIn. And again, you get the prompt right here with the instructions. It's June the 29th, Tuesday at 12 noon. And how to stay in touch with me. Again, it's in your study guide. Pop that one more again for everybody to capture. And that gives you, sorry, June, did I say July? This is July. Thank you. So July 29th, I'll go back to that slide. Roll with me. Sorry, that's a typo. July 29th, Tuesday, July 29th. I made a typo there. 12 p.m. noon Eastern. Webinar registration page there, and the prompts for you guys to use. This is my LinkedIn and my YouTube page, my Black Girl in AI YouTube page. I don't know why you're not able to download the study guide. But what I will say, Kasara, is if you just go ahead and send me an email, I can send it to you directly. It's a large file. So I don't know why Gamma's being like that towards you, but you should be able to click that link. Let me know if it's not working for you. I'm gonna open it up right here, right now, so you can see what I'm doing. I'm gonna copy that link. Okay, you're able to get it. And that might be hopefully it's like a technical issue. I'm looking at the set. You can see it, but not download it. Yeah, I don't know why it won't let you download it. It should, but if you email me, that's my personal email right there. Shoot me an email, and of course I will send that to you directly, so you will have the study guide for yourself. And if you guys have any last questions, of course, muchas gracias a todo. But if anybody has any questions, last questions, I know we're over time, so I appreciate you guys staying with me over the time. I had hoped to finalize this a bit sooner, but you guys didn't have any questions. I had room for questions, I didn't get them. So let me know if you have any. I don't know if we'll let you guys come off mute or not. But if there are any questions at all about all things AI and what to use and how to get started on your business and get started eventually, let me know. But I want to thank you all for tuning in. Thank you all for attending my webinar, especially to my buddies and my pals who I know. I appreciate you guys and my new friends. And I'm really happy to have been here and been helpful to you guys. I'm glad. Thank you all so much. I'm glad you guys enjoyed this webinar. You're very welcome, Diane. You are very welcome. Kasara, Diane, Lana Bain, that's how you pronounce your name. I appreciate everybody for tuning in. Kinga, Melvin, love you guys.
Thank you, Jessica. Thank you so much for this wonderful webinar. The fact that we don't have any questions means you did a great job. So thank you so much. And of course, we will be sharing, the slides with everybody as well as the recordings. So if anybody needs to get in touch with you, they will be able to. So thank you everyone for joining us today. It was such a pleasure, and thank you, Jessica, so much for your time.
Thank you all. I appreciate you all tuning in. I appreciate all of your time.
Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great rest of your day.